We're there.
Broadcast is live.
I'm not seeing the counter. Oh, there it is. We are live.
11, 12.
Oh, mine says 4 seconds. So, hey, everybody. As you're joining us, for those who are unaware and who might be watching this later, well, we're just going to BS for about 10 minutes, and give people a chance to get here and share the live video. If you are joining us, please share the live video, comment so we know we're here, and share it. I'm going to start sharing it as well. I think Jazmin and Michael, we're all going to be doing some sharing here.
So what's the deal? So I'm supposed to be behind the logo until the show officially starts?
If you want, I can move you to where Jazmin is and put her behind the logo.
Why can't
I'm fine with being behind the logo.
Okay.
Stretch it out.
Beards, but
I don't know how to do. I don't think there is a way to
Well,
stretch
do you
it
want
out.
to put yourself behind the logo? How about that?
It doesn't let me move me because. Well, let me try.
White privilege again.
I actually have a beard of my own, so you could be between two beards there, Michael.
It doesn't let me move me because I'm the
Oh, great! White privilege at its finest.
Yep.
White man cannot be obscured at any time, but
there actually is a solution. If I give Michael the password to StreamYard and he operates the stream, then he can kick me out anytime he wants to.
Well, he'd have to show up on time, though.
Too much control over the situation now. We don't want that.
So let me look for the live video so I can share it. Here it is. Share now.
Who's MC Frankenstein?
I don't know. I'm not looking at the screen right now. Is there somebody commenting named MC Frankenstein?
Hey, you don't know them, but they know you.
That is a cool name. I'll give him that.
MC Frankenstein.
We were talking about 90s rap beef. There you go.
Yeah. All right.
So.
All right. I am sharing as well.
Uh-oh.
This looks like it's giving me some kind of drama. Wouldn't you? Yeah. Wouldn't you just know it?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
Facebook is that's one thing that people keep asking me, and I don't know why they think I have the answer, is when the next social media platform is going to come out to replace Facebook. And
it'll be owned by the same people. What difference does it make?
Yeah, that's real. That's a real answer.
All right. Let's see.
I can't figure out. It is not giving me the option. I found the live video, but it's giving me the option to save but not share.
Interesting. Let's see if anybody.
Okay, I'm going back to. Oh, here we go.
Are you sure you're not looking at it?
I have it. I got it.
Okay.
Let's see.
I can't figure out. Oh no.
I think this is just going to be the first 5 minutes of every show we do is going to be trying to
figuring out how to share.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I just tagged both of you guys. Hey, Mark Wilson. Hey, Brandy. I see you guys. Let me get back to StreamYard. Hey, Diane. Hey, Joe. It's the editor formerly known as Joe. So, oops, I hit the wrong thing. So, for people who happen to be watching via the Facebook group, your comments show up like this, where it says Facebook user. And if you want a solution to that, you want us to actually see your name and profile picture and know who's commenting, go to, hey, Audrey, we've missed you. We haven't seen you in a bit. Go to this link and then fill in your information, and then we can see who you are. We got so here's just an example of.
Put Jazmin in the middle so they see that she's here.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. What did you just do?
I just took the comment down because we haven't actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see the two of you.
Yeah, when we start the show officially, I'll take the flyer down, and then and then nobody will be hidden. But this way, I mean, people have to know that the show isn't officially started yet. Otherwise, they'll think this is our content.
Like it couldn't be.
High quality. I'll put the link back up there, Audrey. So again, that's only if you're watching via the group. So if you're watching via the group, your comments. Oh, nope, wrong one. Your comments show up like that. And if you're watching via anywhere else, they show up like Audrey's. But that's I'll put the link back up. Okay, you guys done the sharing?
Yeah, all right.
Yes.
Let's see. I can check and see if it looks like it's been shared on this end. I see Jazmin Koenig shared it, so that's good.
You said my name right and everything. Ooh.
Don't I always say your name right?
I don't know.
How else would you say it?
Is that German, Dutch? What's that?
People generally like to say Koenig, but it is Koenig.
It seems.
What's the lineage behind that?
It's German. It is German.
Okay.
I believe in the old country it would be Koenig, but it would be, instead of O-E, it would be O with an umlaut.
Oh, the umlaut.
Umlaut. Yup.
Do we want to put her back? We want to put her back in the center, Michael? Where do you want to be, Michael?
She can be wherever she wants. Where do you want to be, Jazmin?
I mean, I can talk from anywhere. I think it's arbitrary.
There.
Yeah, all right.
So
now
again,
we have a nice gradient of skin color here.
That's true. It does go from light to dark. Although I think it also, I have got really bright lights in here for filming. Alexa, video lights off. Okay. So it's a little bit less. It makes a difference when I have the professional lights on. Alexa, video lights on.
All right.
So, well, we're here. We can go ahead and get started, actually. Let me take the comment down. So, first of all, for those who are watching, a lot of you showed up already. Comment if you were here for Jazmin's first episode. Well, she was not the only guest. We had a multitude of guests. It was our very second episode of the show. So comment and let us know if you were here for that. Because this is the first time that we've formally had a returning guest. We've had drop-ins, but this is the first time that we've actually scheduled somebody to come back. And so that's a big moment.
They agreed.
What'd you say?
And they agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Diane was here.
They twisted my arm.
We
Nia
sure
was
did.
here.
I didn't want to get kneecapped.
That's right, girl. You know how it is.
Okay, we had a lot of our core people that were here.
Sluggish. Not.
So I don't know who this is because they didn't fill out the form yet. But the mystery person was here. Brandy was here. Well, I will, while everybody's getting here, I will introduce the greatest co-host in the world, greatest drummer on the planet.
Oh, boy,
one of my favorite minds, one of my favorite people to discuss any subject with, just a brilliant musician, a brilliant mind, and a good friend, Mr. Michael Bland. I'm going to get it right on the first try. He is over there.
And to my far right?
I can't get with this mirrored screen. I don't know how to.
Yes, you're right, our left.
You've all seen him before. 23 days.
Hey, Misha.
In the hospital. 11 of them just in the void. Came out better, faster, stronger. Holy Ghost organ. Lightning licks on the guitar. Not scared of black people. Ladies and gentlemen, from Madison, Wisconsin, which how close is what is it called now?
Kenosha?
Yeah.
Less than 2 hours.
Woo!
And Kenosha's 45 minutes from my church. And Scales lives there. Scales, who's the sound engineer at my church, and you met him. He's commented. Well, you not met him in person, but you've met him virtually. He's commented on a number of the shows. We've talked about Scales before.
Well, I've heard white people ought to be scared of Scales a little bit.
Yeah, anybody should be scared of Scales. Really, Scales don't. If you don't have his money. Now, if you got his money, then he's cool. But if you don't have his money,
and still alive, half dead, Dan Spiffy Neuman, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm right here. Why don't you do the honors of introducing our guest?
Wow. What is there you can say about Jazmin Koenig, other than I pronounced her name correctly? She is well, how do we put it exactly? She is an activist. She is a mother. She is a daughter. She is a person of color. She is willing to help anyone and everyone. She was on site during the George Floyd riots and whatnot. Like a true humanitarian, if we ever had one on this show. Jazmin Koenig, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that's a little too kind. I think.
Well, what you been doing? You've been
just, we all have a place, right? We all have things that we can do, and it looks different for everyone, right? Some people were. Let me put it this way. All right. I have a lot of friends who would have loved to be out there with me, but it was also in the midst of a pandemic. And there are people who have family who are high risk, and they need to protect their loved ones, but they also, want to stand up for what they believe in, and they found other ways. So, not everyone was huffing it, but everyone has a place.
Right on. I mean, we know what happened. How do you feel about things since? Have you had any revelations, any epiphanies about the situation?
God, it's bittersweet, right? I feel hopeful. I love the way that our community has come together, right? I love seeing the allies out there. I love that people are finally speaking up, because none of this shit is new, right? People are deciding to talk about it again. And talk about it loudly, and trying their best not to lose momentum, which is really important, because it's very easy to jump on a bandwagon and then forget all about it when the next thing comes along. What was it, in 2000? I think it was an article in the New York Times. I can't quite remember the source, but they said that one of the biggest, I'm so sorry, I'm having trouble collecting my thoughts here. One of the biggest issues that we have is that our attention span these days is so short. And the 24-hour news cycle is so overwhelming. There's always something new. There's always something to distract you, to pull your attention. And that's really utilized as a weapon to purposefully try and distract us. So we really need to focus on the things that need our attention, and be aware of the fact that, that there are blatant attempts to distract us. Mm-hmm. I'm also, on the other hand, the, two sides of the same coin. there are times when I feel very bleak, right? I feel like progress is made, and then an executive order is signed. There's always an executive order to, one step forward and two steps back. Like, what are we supposed to do when the powers that be, the leadership is working against us? Like, it's hard at times to keep your head up and to feel hope, to maintain that hope.
Yeah, I agree, and I guess that's one of the main reasons I don't like bringing the president's name up on this show, because I feel like he's doing plenty to keep the confusion up, but I mean, he is a reflection as much as anything else. He's a reflection of a very real, quadrant of people in this country. And people want to you blame Trump for what Trump is actively doing. Yeah, the executive orders and whatnot, but I mean the rest of it, we got some real racists, and
his support doesn't come from nowhere.
Who knew so many of them came from up north? Came from from the northern states. Who knew the flyover zone was chock full of racist people?
Yeah, in my own city.
Yeah, and I also think that
you can just leave it.
Supreme Court we can't be discriminated against. 2 days later, Trump. Okay, yeah. Well, that's it. And the other thing is, and I've said this many times on this show before, that people want to pair benevolence and intelligence often, and it's a common thing to get kind of confused about. Like, listen, you may not like what Hitler was doing in Germany, but he almost got away with it. Like, that's some smart people behind Hitler. Some people, some smart people in the world want to sow death and destruction for the sake of their own gain. And that's just the reality of it. It's not a matter of, people being stupid. It's just, it's, go ahead. I see your mouth.
Well, Hitler wasn't stupid. He was a dork. He was a dork. Yeah. But he wasn't stupid, but he also got a lot of his ideas on how to alienate people and on how to turn people against Jews and other people who were not fitting his form of the Aryan nation or what have you, from Jim Crow laws. They
sure.
From the laws that we had in the U.S., they took a lot of those ideas from us.
Yeah,
we helped.
Some of us. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not trying to be sensational about it. I'm just saying people think that, I mean, there's some really smart people behind Trump who have an agenda that they're pushing. What I don't like about the media is they're only going to, broadcast. They're only going to cover whatever's good for them. Whatever good for ratings, whatever, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff going on still. I mean, I don't know if it's every day, but somebody black is dying, if not every day, almost every day, and they only cover it when it becomes convenient for them. These things are still going on. I keep going on my page. Just every once in a while, I'll just go, Flint still doesn't have drinkable water.
Yeah.
What kind of craziness is that?
Just as an example, you guys are both in, Jazmin, you're back in Minneapolis, right? You're not still in Wisconsin, right?
Correct.
And I know Michael's in Minneapolis. So did either of you, other than on my page, did either of you hear about the black man that was shot by police here in technically in Monona, Wisconsin, maybe 3 days ago. Did it make the news up in Minneapolis, which is not that far from here?
I thought I would have seen some little blurb about it, but I definitely don't know what happened.
It was like 3 to 5 miles from my house. They were pulling somebody over for reckless driving, and the official story is he got out of his car, then he went back to his car and shot himself. And
I saw that. Yes.
Yes, I did. Yeah. But on social media. But I'm also from Wisconsin.
Right.
I didn't see it on the news.
I don't think it did make the news, and that was kind of my point. Is that if you guys saw it, it's because you have friends and family in the area. And I mean, how many examples like that happen every day? And I don't fault the media for reporting on what they think is newsworthy. That's what they're supposed to do. And unfortunately, the way that the system works is what's newsworthy is determined by what people want to see. And that's the definition of newsworthy is what,
Okay, fair enough, man. Let me just interject here.
Sure.
We already know the president is up to only, no good, essentially. Let me just say it that way. So why give him so much coverage when we know the basic mantra? The basic mantra is cruelty is the point. Let's eliminate every group who does not serve a purpose for us. So whatever he's doing, we know what the agenda is. There's no need to spend more time, more network time. He's taking up the airwaves.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I agree to some extent, but also, I hate Trump. I don't use Twitter. I follow Trump on Twitter. When he decided to, that's how I first learned about the 1776 commission, right? Okay. That I was talking about before we went live here, which for anyone who doesn't know, Trump came out and said he's gonna sign he signed an executive, either is going to or did sign an executive order to create a national commission to push more pro-American history. And that's in direct response to the 1619 Project, which, focuses on enslaved Africans being brought to America and how that's, the beginning of America, sure. not signing the Declaration of Independence. So he started off with, anyway, but that's how I learned about that, right? So I want to be informed about that stuff. The problem is normally we would want to know about these things because he's doing terrible things. The issue is nobody cares about accountability anymore.
And not only that, who's in a position to stop it? Which is what I'm saying is if you're gonna inform me of every single thing this dude is doing that's crossing the line, but nobody in a position to stop him is doing anything about it, then what's the point of knowing?
Well, and I'd also like to point out that so I'm an election judge. I'm actually going to be a head election judge here at the general election in November, and I'd just like to point out how weak the turnout at the primaries was. I'd like to point out how weak the turnout at the midterm elections is, right? Because everybody wants to focus on the president, and the president did this or the president doesn't do this, but people forget that there are 3 branches of government. There's and the president signs the orders, but the legislature makes the laws. Good so point. Why aren't you out there voting for why don't you know who your senators are? Why aren't you voting at the midterm elections. Like there are people who go out there and just vote for the president and don't know who those other names are. Please, if you don't know who the names on your ballots are going to be, go to vote.org. You can fill out a whole survey on what your beliefs are, and it will tell you who falls most in line with what you believe. Right. And make sure you're voting at every chance that you get, because the president has the power it has because we give them the power they have. But if we focus more on those other branches of government, we can take some of that power back.
It's crazy to me that how many votes would it take to defeat Mitch McConnell? Like we're trying. I think the margin of victory is in the hundreds, not the thousands, right? We're talking about if X number of people in Kentucky voted for whoever's running against Mitch McConnell, it would drastically change the structure of our entire government at this point, because the executive branch. Jazmin was talking about the three branches of government. The executive branch is actually the weakest branch of government. It has the least power out of all three branches. But because the Senate Majority Leader and the president are working together, they're pretty much able to accomplish pretty much anything they want without, and in answer to Michael's question, who's empowered to stop them? Only us at the voting booth. But we have to turn out in such strong numbers to override all the gerrymandering and the voter suppression and all of the things that are.
Well, no doubt they're making it harder than it should have to be. And not only that, they vote like zombies. They just go. Hey, listen. They don't equivocate about like the nuanced thinking of it. They just, this is the way we're going, and then they consolidate their efforts, they allocate their resources, and they go out and they vote for who they want to keep in office. So, I mean, you talking about you talking about the primaries, you talking about
midterms
or Democrat.
I'm sorry.
Who are you saying that nobody turned out, or just like?
No, it's just that the turnouts aren't what they should be. But yeah, I mean, I don't know whether someone's a Republican or a Democrat when they come in, because I wasn't at that particular station.
Okay.
But they do have to choose Republican or Democrat. I couldn't tell you. But generally, here's the thing, is we had a larger turnout than we've had before. And generally what that means is, when you have a larger turnout, it means you have typically younger voters coming out, and generally you do have more left-leaning voters coming out. But I hate to break it to y'all, the left is getting further right, and the moderate is getting further right, because the right keeps getting further right. So we need to check ourselves.
Well, I've been a Democrat all my life, but I've also been very critical. And yeah, Democrats, my feeling, since civics class, probably, which they don't really have anymore, do they? They got civics class in high school.
Oh, I mean it. You mean it in indoctrination class? You mean?
Yeah, same difference. Yeah.
That's why I think it's so funny that Trump has a 1776 commission where he's like, pro-America, we're going to teach everybody to be more pro-America. I'm like, the school books have been doing this for hundreds of years. What are you talking about? We don't need that. But oh, good Lord, what was I had a thought that I was going to say.
Civics
it'll come back.
Left leaning. They're talking about how everything is shifted to the right.
And
I can't. Oh, No, I almost had it.
That's all right. I mean, we generally just talk. Yeah, I mean, you telling us things that, well, you telling me some things that I had not considered, or maybe I hadn't noticed that trend, but I guess so. When, you know, when the right goes further right, everything gets dragged further right. Yeah.
I mean, Hillary Clinton back in, you know, what was it? I don't know what decade it was, but prior to when Hillary Clinton started out, she was a Republican. Mm-hmm. Her positions haven't moved. She is more or less the same person politically when she was first starting out. But since everything has shifted to the right, she has gone from being a moderate Republican to a moderate Democrat. And the right would have you believe that she's a far left Democrat. You know, I consider myself to be a moderate, but I get called all kinds of libtard and everything else because I believe in basic human rights and things that really shouldn't even be political, but somehow they've made it where that allegedly causes you to fall on the left side of the political spectrum.
Well, and in a day and age where you can politicize whether you wear a mask or not, in consideration, blah blah blah, skippy, blase. Yeah, I think that's the secret weapon right now. It's to weaponize your humanity, or your, because that's something that seems to exist beyond the political sphere. But I guess when I think about being a liberal, is that really a political affiliation?
I think nowadays liberal and Democrat have become synonymous to a lot of people, and they don't mean the same thing. And the same thing with conservative and Republican. I mean, there's absolutely nothing conservative about today's Republican Party other than that they're trying to conserve white supremacy and trying to conserve all the resources for themselves. You know, but other than that, what are they conserving? It's not the environment. It's not the economy. It's not,
they do want to conserve fetuses as well.
I was going to say that, but I figured I'd leave that alone. But go ahead, Jazmin.
Pluck them once they're born.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who was it that shared that?
When they're born, that's a different story. But what I was going to say is yes. But I thought the idea used to be less government involved in citizens' lives. And it seems like they're not even conserving on that. With smaller government, get out of people's personal lives, and it's not even that anymore.
There's a quote from the show The West Wing where they said that Republicans want a smaller government. They want to make it so small that it fits in people's bedrooms. So, you know, they want to control is who's fucking, and you know, and what they do with their bodies. And anyhow, that was
why is that?
That was a throwaway.
I mean, what? But let's say it's right. Let's say it's a correct analysis. How come? Why do they care what people?
Because evangelism.
Well, okay, I got you. I understand, but that ain't none of their business either.
So this dates back to something called the Southern Strategy, which both of you guys are familiar with. I don't know if our viewers are. I guess. So basically, after the Civil Rights Movement, there were a lot of disenfranchised Democrats in the South, what they called the Dixiecrats, because it used to be the Democrats were the party of the South, the KKK, the party of slavery, etc. And when civil rights was not a partisan issue, it was both parties were, you know, had people on either side of the civil rights movement. And so when the dust cleared, there was they no longer had this wedge issue with Southern Democrats, and the Republican Party was losing in a lot of areas. So there was a strategist, I want to say it was Lee Atwater, that basically said, wait a second, all these Democrats in the South, that the important issues to them were slavery, the important issues to them are segregation. You know, they're not going to vote Democrat now because of civil rights. We can appeal to these you know, to these disenfranchised Democrats and make them Republicans by using certain issues and certain code words that we know that they'll, busing and desegregation and things like that. And so they started looking for wedge issues with white Southern voters that they could use to get them to come over to the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And so that's how abortion became an issue, because again, even you could look even back to before Reagan, abortion wasn't a partisan issue, but they made it a partisan issue because they wanted a wedge issue that they could use with white Southern voters to get them over to the Republican Party. And so it was really used as an excuse to appeal to Southern evangelical churches to oppose desegregation. I'm doing a bad job of explaining this, but the politicalization of abortion was specifically used in order to oppose desegregation. It was trying to find a wedge issue with white Southern evangelicals so that they could make racism palatable.
Sure.
And it worked. I don't know as much about the history of how, and maybe Jazmin does, as far as how LGBTQ issues became. I figure it's something similar, where it became where's an issue that we don't really care about, but we can use to get votes. We can be homophobic. Got it.
I don't know the specific history in that context. I do know that we can. Oh God, what is the book called? Freakonomics. Y'all have read Freakonomics, right?
I'm familiar. I haven't read the book, but I'm familiar with it.
I am not.
So Allie's read it. So in Freakonomics, he goes into the gang wars of the 90s and how all of this violence and poverty and they just did not know what to do. Like they would bring in more police. It wouldn't have any effect. Everything they tried to do would have no effect. There was just more and more violence, just so much violence, and they didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden it drops off, and it's perfectly in line with the age that children would have been reaching, like adulthood and hoodlumry, right? Would be when abortion became legal. So essentially, all of these people because you're less likely to be a well-developed person if you are an unwanted child, if you're not given love and resources, a home, food, and if you're not wanted, or if you're in a house full of kids with, parents who can't take care of you. So abortion was legalized. Mm-hmm. Children who were unwanted were not had, and therefore did not become criminals because they didn't grow up being abused and neglected. And then crime dropped off, and it was right in line with the age that those children who had been aborted would have been would have been the age where they would have started, getting into the crime scene. It's so fascinating. I recommend reading Freakonomics.
Okay.
Anyway, I remember what I was going to say earlier.
Well, please.
I was going to say that, like many people, I don't like Biden. I didn't like Hillary. Okay. I voted for Hillary. Mm-hmm. I'm going to vote for Biden. Sure. And there are a lot of people out there, and I understand. We always say this. Every 4 years, it's always, now's not the time for a protest vote. Now's not the time for a protest vote. But it isn't, damn it. Because, and I hate the two-party system. I hate the DNC. Dang it. And I'm a Democrat. I hate it. I hate it all. And I do not like Joe Biden. But you know what I hate more than I hate Joe Biden and I hate the DNC and I hate the two-party system? I hate fascism more. So like it disturbs me when people are like, I blah 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 this and that. Just because you don't like Trump, you're gonna vote for Joe Biden. These are the things that are wrong with Joe Biden. And I'm like, well, yeah, but fascism. Like, need I say more? Fascism.
No. Well, in case somebody doesn't understand, go and tell them.
Like literally, for years, people have been using the whole Hitler thing. I looked on my phone today, and I saw like how Facebook shows you your past.
Oh, your
stuff.
Memories? Yeah.
Yeah, your memories. And I had posted a meme it was a picture of Hitler, and it was like, oh, people, I had posted this. It was like, oh, people compared Bush to Hitler. Now they're comparing Obama to Hitler. How about we stop comparing people to Hitler until somebody is blah, 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 this and that. And I'm like, now's the time to start comparing to Hitler. We have a fucking fascist. Like, fascism. It's scary.
I don't want to stop you from yelling about fascism, but I just wanted to reply to something you said a few minutes ago, and then we can go back to yelling about fascism. Is like when people ask when is the time for a protest vote, the primary. That's what primaries are for.
Yes.
You vote your conscience in the primary. You can even write somebody in the primary if you want to. That's when you vote your ideals. And then, when you get to the general, that's when you look at it and say, okay, who's going to be more helpful, who's going to cause more damage, because realistically, one of two people is going to win when it comes to the general. Even if we have more than two parties on the ballot, it's likely that one of the candidates from either of the major parties is going to win. And I feel like most of the people that complain about protest votes don't vote in the primaries, like you were talking about earlier. Because if everybody voted in the primaries for the candidates that they're complaining about, those candidates would win some of the primaries. Go ahead.
I was really holding. I mean, nothing against Kamala, and I'm certainly hoping that we do have a vice president woman of color. That'd be fantastic. But I was truly hoping that he would choose Elizabeth Warren and then pass away, and then I'd still get Warren.
That's a very dark solution, but I hear you.
It's a solution.
If you don't mind, I want to answer Chris's question just real quick.
Do it.
So, and this is just my opinion, and maybe Jazmin or Michael will disagree with me and correct me, but in all of the recent cases, it's been the candidate that the voters picked. No, the DNC didn't necessarily push Biden. More voters picked Biden than did any of the other candidates, and arguably the same thing is true with Hillary Clinton. We can go into the whole backstory about that everybody's probably familiar with anyways, but arguably that's the case. These are who the Democratic voters are picking, and it's because people are scared of change. We want the familiar, we want the candidates we're used to, we want the policies we're used to. Change is great in theory, and all the the stuff that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are proposing sounds great in theory, and until people start worrying, well, could that mean a difference for me? Is my life going to be different? And so instead of taking a chance on something that could be way better, they stick with the familiar. And even a candidate like Trump that seems like he's different than the establishment is still just reinforcing the familiar, because he's reinforcing the things that they like that are familiar: racism, bigotry,
sexism.
Yeah, and somebody said, and I don't know the origins of the quote, that people ask for change, but what they really, really want is that they'll wake up tomorrow and tomorrow will be basically just like today. And that governs our voting and the candidates we end up more than anything else, because people are scared of change.
Well, and like I said, the right is getting further right. The moderate is getting further right, and the left is getting further right. That's why you got Biden. That's why you had Hillary. So,
Yeah.
you know,
It's because because it's the trend of the country.
Yeah, you got to be willing to get uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, hey, but what's the upside for those who like it the way it is?
Well, generally, the people who like it the way it is aren't being shot in the streets.
Well, yes, of course. You and I both know that.
Generally, the people who like it the way it is are fairly affluent and are getting some decent tax breaks as well from the status quo continuing.
Yeah. But Dan and I, we established an agreement. That was probably last week. We were having a dialogue, and he said, fear is not an excuse. Some of these people out here, you know, it's fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of, you know, a level playing field, fear of missing out on that privilege that I don't believe exists in the first place. A lot of that. A lot of fear, you know. So whoever's not afraid has an agenda they'd like to have met out. They're trying to keep their pockets full. They're trying to keep from giving their money to somebody else. They're trying to, you know, I guess that's the hard part to me, is how do you get equality in a climate where everybody can't agree that that's the best thing for everybody?
Well, that's the thing is, you know, people do have to be willing to get uncomfortable. People do have to be willing to share, right? Is people say I'm not racist, but they also don't want low-income housing in their neighborhood.
It's a great example. That's a really great example, because plenty of not racist white people are completely against low-income housing. And for that matter, I know some middle-class Black people that are against it too, because they don't want their property values, you know, to go down. But then these are the same people that are in favor of low-income housing theoretically when it comes to the, you know, the candidates they allegedly support and
somewhere else.
Yeah,
put it somewhere.
It's essentially tantamount to NIMBY, not in my backyard. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Who are you talking to?
You?
I thought one of you was about to start speaking.
Biff was invariably, Dan was getting ready to say something.
I don't remember what it was, so go ahead.
I would like to point something out, and it was actually a comment that there's a beautiful woman over here that I have been seeing recently who said something. Did you want to say it, or do you want me to just say the comment that you made?
Let's see her.
About the flag. Come here. It was her comment, and it was really I really enjoyed it. So I want her to say it. Tell them what you told me.
Tell us what you told her.
What? Hello.
Yeah, about the American flag.
Oh, I was talking to my friend, and I noticed there was this guy with a truck, and he had this giant, like a huge American flag, probably as big as the truck. And I looked at him, and I was like, isn't it strange how anytime you see someone with a big American flag or wearing an American flag or anything like that, I automatically assume that they're racist.
Yeah.
And it's like almost become the new Confederate flag. And that's just how I was seeing it. And he was just like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know a lot of people who sport the American flag who aren't very, well, racist or in the closet racist. I don't know how else to say it.
That's not very in the closet if you got a flag that big.
That's huge.
But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'd like to ask our audience who else, because when she said that, and by the way, that was Allie. She's gorgeous, and that was a great thought. I'd like to ask our audience, because when she said that, I realized when I see someone wearing the American flag or with an American flag other than just on a flagpole, unless it's on a flagpole, if someone has like an American flag like hanging from their truck, or like they're waving it around, or they're wearing it or something, I do generally assume that they're very far right leaning. And I never realized that until she said it. And I'd like to know who else feels that way as well.
Well, I mean, Dan, you want to speak on behalf of white people everywhere?
I'm definitely the wrong person to speak on behalf of white people. They definitely wouldn't accept that. But
I can see through you, man.
You read too many collard greens to speak to white folks. What's
right? But I will say that that's not the first time I've heard that argument from white people and black people. Just basically saying, I think that anytime somebody, first of all, anytime somebody is like leaning into the American flag, whether it's wearing it on their outfit or having it as their profile picture, that's usually a pretty clear sign that they're a right-wing racist nut job. But I would go so far as, I'm skeptical when I see even you talk about people having it on a flagpole. Like if it's not Flag Day or the 4th of July, I start to get skeptical now. And I was kind of both when that argument was originally brought up some weeks ago, and then when she brought it up now, I was kind of going over in my head like, first of all, it makes sense because if you're proud to be an American and this country was founded with a fabric and a foundation of racism, then you're kind of saying that you're proud of racism. And that kind of took me to the place of, okay, well, can you be proud of being an American without subscribing to the racist fabric of the country? And I don't know. How do you guys feel?
I'll let Jazmin go first.
I don't know if I can't really answer that question because I'm not proud to be an American. If I were traveling overseas, I would be absolutely ashamed to say I would, oh, good Lord. No, I'm not proud to be an American. So I can't say whether you can be or not.
I'll say this. I remember one of the trips Sonny and I took over to Italy, and it was right around when George Bush got into office. And I remember having a conversation with an Italian saying, so you're from the United States, obviously. I said, yeah. He said, well, being black, you must be ashamed of your country. I said, really? He said, yes, the way your people have been treated is deplorable. How could you respect or stand up for a country who's been, so evil and wicked to its own constituents, to its own citizens? Good point. I said, I hadn't thought about it in terms of being proud or not proud. I don't know if I even do really now. It's just, it's a very young country in comparison to many places in the world. And democracy is it's not perfect by a long shot, but this is one of the only successful, if you want to call it successful, examples in the world, really, and trust me, I started to get a Black Panthers flag and fly that on Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
But I don't really, it's better if my neighbors don't really understand where my head's at. Like they don't really need to know. I'm already a musician. I come and go at weird hours. And, over the years, they've seen some people coming and going who they should have been afraid of. So they don't really need to know much more about me in particular. But I'm sorry, I missed that completely.
Oh, I was just putting up all the comments that agreed with the sentiment that being having blatantly promoting American flags and pro-America stuff equates with right-wing and or racist.
Well,
Wasn't there?
Yeah, okay. It's you're talking about scores of black soldiers who went away to fight for this country and came back to being treated the same way they were treated beforehand. You know, as for us, ain't no real reason. We built this country for free. You're welcome. And still yet, the social contract has been broken time and time again with us. So this is your own constitution saying that people are supposed to get the same thing straight across the board. So just the hypocrisy alone. Otherwise, you can go back and focus on the fact that white supremacy is built into the structure. It wasn't for us to begin with.
I mean, one of the things that my wife and I have talked about, and I think I've had this conversation with other people too, is every time one of these particularly egregious situations comes up, we talk about, what it would be like to move to another country. And, unfortunately, the list of countries that don't have similar issues is very short. But where I always get caught up how I identify as an American, am I proud to be an American or not? And maybe, part of this comes from a place of privilege, but like all of the thing is, as much as I resent the things that we're discussing, pretty much all the things that I love in the world came from here. All the music that I love was created here. Most of the food that I love was created here.
A lot of that was by accident, though. A lot of that was by force.
Yeah. Well, most of it was done most of it was done through oppression and people being oppressed. I mean, pretty much every great American art form comes from Black culture, which was, which wouldn't exist in its current form if not for, the history of oppression.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of things that I enjoy very much. There are a lot of things that I enjoy very much in America, and there are a lot of things that I am proud of in America. Particularly, I'm very proud of the direction that Gen Z is going in. I really like the direction that Gen Z's head is in, and I think that when the rest of us die out, they're gonna take things in really great directions if there's enough of the earth remaining for them to do so. But I love the music. I love the food. I enjoy my job, even though I like there's give and take to everything, right? And it's sad. It's sad the realizations that you come to. Like I've always loved the Badgers, but I can't support them. It's modern day slavery. Okay? They're putting these kids at risk, these kids who don't get any pay and make them millions of dollars, and they're saying, go do what you always do, which is already modern day slavery, and risk your health and your life. We'll give you an education, which should be free anyway. We'll take it away if you get injured by this sport that is highly likely to injure you and end your career before it ever starts. We will not pay you, though. And now they're saying, do it during a pandemic. I cannot support it. Sorry, I'm ADHD. I will branch off and rant.
Well, I think that's a great topic to bring up. Because I don't think we've really talked about that on the show yet, but it fits into, all of the topics that we do cover in terms of, because and correct me if I'm wrong and if I'm out of place, but that's also something that more drastically negatively affects students of color as well.
Yeah.
Because the white kids with their scholarships and whatever else they have, they're set either way, you know, and so it's a lot of examples where we're basically finding another way to get poor Black kids to work for free and build white corporate culture off of it. Am I wrong?
Yeah, well, you take these Black kids out of and not just Black kids, but yes, they are disproportionately affected out of, you know, oftentimes rough neighborhoods, oftentimes out of families where, you know, where they don't have family members who have gone to college before and have, you know, are told, this is how you're going to make something of yourself. This is your ticket out. You don't get paid for it, but if you do a really good job and you don't get hurt, then maybe you'll be able to go and you know, make something of yourself. But it's just.
Do you want to even touch on the gender inequality of it too, or is that not even? I mean, because that seems almost worse. If it were possible.
Yeah, there are I don't even know what to. I feel like you just said it all right there.
I mean, I remember even just talking about pro sports. I remember being shocked when I learned about the pay disparities between the NBA and the WNBA. And I get that fewer people watch the WNBA, and we can go into why that is, you know, as well. But I mean, they have the money to pay them more, even with the current. Anyhow, that's another, you know, that's a whole nother tangent.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna talk about gender, let's talk about the post I made at work.
What was it?
Go ahead.
So what was it? 2.5 weeks ago, we saw at work, there was a post on our intranet. And I think last time I was here, I believe I was talking about Juneteenth and how I read what I had posted about Juneteenth at work. I think I read that whole thing out about how, you know, it's racist to celebrate, to give us off for July 4th, but not for Juneteenth. I believe that was a part of my segment. So now
I can see that pissing off the white people.
Yeah. Well, actually, I got a lot of props for that. And we ended up having some conversations about that. And I'm hopeful that next year it will be different. But it is. It is racist to take off July 4th and not Juneteenth. Because everyone wasn't independent. Okay? We weren't all truly independent until Juneteenth. Fuck July 4th. I don't celebrate it. I'll take that day. I'll take the day off. You want to give it to me?
We can still cook some brats.
Yeah. Anyway.
Johnsonville.
So, Women's Equality Day, National Women's Equality Day. This was the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. For those of you who don't know what suffrage is, it sounds really bad, but it means women got to vote. 100 years ago, women got to vote. Well, white women got to vote.
They still think it's bad.
So Stanton and B. Anthony, who are famed for heading, you know, that movement, were staunch against women of color, women of any color. I'm not just talking about Black women being able to vote. And we have another 44 years to go before we can celebrate 100 years of all women being able to vote. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be celebrated that women were able to vote, but that is an arbitrary date in my mind. it marks the beginning of white feminism, which is still something that can be celebrated, but give it some context and don't just celebrate it like this is when women could vote and act like there aren't so many people being left out, just like with 4th of July.
Preach. A lot of people don't realize that the feminist movement was not for every woman in this country.
Well, there are still like TERFs out there too.
It was about trying to get in on the ground floor of the power structure of this country, trying to match, and share power with obviously who was in power. It was just white men. A lot of people they miss that about feminism. They are white. Well, I mean, call it white feminism, even. I mean, to my knowledge, well, you know what? I just got very. I just caught my own reflection and realized I'm preaching to somebody who knows a whole lot more about the situation. So let me just and suck all that back up, Jazmin.
I think that no, I mean, I don't even. I actually came out as androgen a few weeks ago, so I don't even consider myself a woman.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest, but I do still consider myself an intersectional feminist.
Okay, well, that is your prerogative.
Yeah, and I still, I regardless of whether I identify as female or not.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you can't be an advocate or stand up. It don't matter.
Well, and it doesn't mean I don't still suffer the same.
Right. Because just because you identify a certain way doesn't mean everybody's going to adhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm half German, so I mean, I always say, I'm Black because this is America. It doesn't matter. It's the one drop rule.
Yeah.
But I'm half German, and I could say, I'm German, but I'm still gonna
listen. Now you're
gonna treat you like a German.
I get pulled over.
Yeah.
That's what I tried to tell young Rye one time. We were talking about just gender and the changing attitudes of this of society. I say, yeah, okay, I get it. I understand if it's I understand in general. But what I cannot do is convince anybody that I'm a fragile 125-pound white woman who it's not going to work for me.
But you're not.
It's not going to work for me. So, as I'm free to feel whatever way I want to about myself, or identify. I can define myself, but I have to. For me personally, if that was how I identified, I'd have to really expect society to be a few steps behind.
Michael, what do you think about this state of emergency in Kentucky?
I gotta say, I'm not sure exactly what you speak of.
They are gearing up to tell us the results of whether they are going to be charging the police officers who, and you know what? Actually, give me just a second because I'm tired of this.
You look at their names?
Yes, because I'm tired of the names not going out there. I'm going to remind myself of the names and remind everyone else of the names here.
Okay.
It's a shame that
you know what she's talking about, Dan?
I know exactly what she's talking about, but I'll wait and give her the floor to talk about it. But yeah,
no, go ahead and speak while I'm looking up these names, please.
Yeah,
Dan.
so they're going to make an announcement in the Breonna Taylor case late either tonight. Maybe they've already made the announcement. They hadn't at the point in time in which we started the show, or tomorrow. And they have already declared a state of emergency in Louisville and put in like curfew and restrictions and enforcement against protests and rioting and stuff like that in anticipation of this announcement. And if they're already locking down before the announcement has been made, then we kind of already know what the announcement's going to be, and it's not going to be good.
Well, I don't know. Well, I could agree. I could simply go along with it. But I mean, the bottom line is these days, no matter who's upset, there's going to be some smoke in the city and some furniture moving. So, the white people could be just as mad, on the opposite side of it.
Just to remind everyone, that would be Jonathan Mattingly, Brett Hankerson, and Miles Cosgrove.
These are the cops?
Yes.
Okay.
These are the officers who participated in the murder of Breonna Taylor. Not only, and I don't know I know some people are more versed on exactly what happened there than others, but for those who don't know, they falsified evidence to get a warrant so that they could enter her home. Mm-hmm. They pretended they had evidence that they did not have so they could enter her home, and then they shot her dead. This wasn't just a warrant and then it went wrong. They were already there illegally. So regardless, no matter whether, even if she had attempted to shoot them and they shot her, they should still go to jail because they were in her home illegally and should have never been there in the first place.
Did you guys hear that so allegedly the person that they were looking for was her ex-boyfriend, who was a drug dealer, and apparently they offered him a plea deal where he would essentially get off if he named her as a co-conspirator after the fact, after she was killed, basically as a way that they could justify her death. You guys hear about that?
I did.
The lengths that I guess I'll use the catchphrase and say the white supremacist power structure, although I think it's a little more complicated than that, will go to justify the murder of anyone that they see as not mattering.
Well, this is why, and it's not just about justifying the murder of anyone they see as not mattering. Let's be honest, it's also about protecting their own, which is why we say all cops are bastards. And people hear all cops are bastards and jump to conclusions, just like they hear defund the police and assume that means, oh, no more police. There won't be anyone to call. No, that's not what it means. And all cops are bastards doesn't mean that we think that every police officer who's out there is racist and shooting people in the street. No, it means that all cops are bastards because the good ones get fired. The ones who do what they should be doing, the ones who call the other cops out, the ones who don't just fall in line with that good old boys club shit, either get killed or fired.
Yeah.
So that's why all cops are bastards, because you either ignore it, become a part of it, or you're removed in one way or another.
I hear you on that. I get it. Some people are never going to give up the ghost because somebody in their family was a police officer or somebody they know. That narrative is going to continue. And you can't stop people from compressing information and looking at it through their own lens, their own life experience. So there's always going to be some scragglers and somebody standing up for it because they're in their feelings about it. You're muted. I don't know why.
She might have muted herself.
Oh, okay.
It happens.
Sorry about that.
You didn't want to. Okay.
I You know, I had a little comment from a girl.
All right.
She's trying to set up date night for later is what she's trying to do. You heard all the compliments she gave her earlier. She's got a plan. So
yeah, we're not gonna keep you too long, Dan. We're gonna be off at 9 o'clock. I'm gonna call the authorities. If you're 8:59, you're not wrapping it up.
I thought, wait a second, all cops are bastards now. What authorities? And then Zuckerberg ain't that much better. I don't know what authorities we got. So, not to jump topics, but I do want to make sure we talk about, since we have the gift of having you here, talk about. So first of all, you know, a lot of the people that are with us tonight were with us for the first time you were here, but a lot of them weren't. And just talking about your experiences on the ground in like some of the first protests that made the national news this time around. And, you know, as well as just kind of touching on, I mean, what's going on in Minneapolis today that people who aren't from there might not necessarily know. Are protests still happening? Are people still on the streets? Have we seen any changes? You know, where, I mean, has there been any positive outcome thus far? So I know I just gave you like 6 topics.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we'll start with the beginning, right? I had to be out there. I had to go. I called my dad. I told him I was gonna go. And he was scared. And he begged me not to go. He said, there are other things that you can do. Please, I want you to be safe.
Was your dad already down there?
Yeah.
Was he already down there, or was he?
I don't think he was at the time, but he was at one point.
I will tell you that, like, her dad's a very well-respected musician in Minneapolis. And I found out about a lot of what was happening on the streets that wasn't making the news by watching him go live on Facebook.
Yeah.
He was very, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. Because here's the thing is he doesn't care about his safety. He cares about mine.
Yeah.
Right. And he knew about, you know, there were fires, there were riots. He wasn't worried about the protests. He was worried about the riots. And he knew that I was going into the thick of it. This was also right at the beginning, right? When there was a lot of fake shit out there. They were talking about, oh, the zoo animals have been released. And there's,
I remember that.
Yeah, and there's tigers roaming around the streets and this and that. So like my dad was scared for me, and he begged me not to go, and I promised him I wouldn't. And I was en route. I blatantly lied to him because he was like, I don't need all this stress, da da da. And I was like, I won't go then. He was like, you promise? I said, I promise.
Oh Lord.
Poor child.
The next day I did call him because I had some pictures had been taken of me. I got caught on Unicorn Riot's live stream. So I called him, or I texted him. I said, I'm sorry I lied, but I'm not sorry I went. And you should have known better than to ask me not to go. That is basically, I was not very apologetic, but
well, I have a question, Jazmin. I don't mean to jump back and forth, but
that's all right.
When we refer to you as she, what's your feeling on that?
Currently I am using she, her pronouns. I'll let you know if that changes.
All right. I just wanted to be sure we weren't, you know.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Michael.
Respectful.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Yeah, that.
Well, we love your father very much.
Yeah.
And, so it hurts us too that you lied to him, but I guess I understand that.
Well,
you got to do what you got to do.
I think now that he knows that I'm safe, I think I like to assume he's more proud of me than upset about me lying.
Okay.
but I don't, I mean, he didn't blow up at me or anything. He knows I'm an adult, right?
Yeah.
When it comes
But
down
you
to it,
always give me-
I'm 30 years old.
Yes, I'm 51, but you know what? My mom looks at me the same as she did the day I was born. You can't outrun that. As a parent is going to see you the way they see you, and you can get grown up and big and bad all you want. I'm a living witness.
Yeah, but I'm also a parent, right? And that was kind of my thing, was as a parent of a young Black man, I couldn't not be out there.
I feel you. Mm-hmm.
So there was, I was a part of a very peaceful protest. The first protest I was a part of was downtown. And it was a march.
Mm-hmm.
And a peaceful protest was met with violent reactions, with gas and rubber bullets.
Sure.
Is what we got in response. And man, when that gas hits you, it's just it's indescribable. You really can't. I really can't explain just how painful it is. You can't breathe, but also it just I don't know why I'm trying to describe it. I just said it's indescribable. It's indescribable, Michael. Stop trying to force me to describe it. Damn it.
I don't remember asking you what it was like, but okay.
So there were also a few days later when I was out, and we were met with the National Guard. When the National Guard came out, they had some of the vomit tanks, like the vomit canisters that they were throwing out too, as well as the gas canisters, and they were throwing those. They were directing those at us. I remember also, I was at the Wells Fargo over on, I'm not from Minneapolis. I can never remember the name. A what?
Lake Street?
Yeah, it was near Lake Street. I can't remember the cross sections, but there was a Wells Fargo that went up on the third day.
Okay.
On the third day, a Wells Fargo that went up, and I was there when it first started getting broken up into. And the next day I went past it and it was completely gone.
Sure.
I remember watching people looting Kmart. Dan, did you know Kmarts are still a thing?
I have seen a few in like rural areas, but they've been gone here for decades.
I did not know Kmarts were still a thing. I was like, how you look? Oh, damn. Anyway.
Oh, blue light special.
Yeah.
Little Caesar's pizza.
And the thing is, people were leaving this Kmart. Like the people I was seeing leaving this Kmart were leaving with like groceries and rugs. Like, I'm sure there were people who left with TVs and shit, but like, I don't know. What do you expect? I struggle with it. It's a double-edged blade, right? Because you have these places that are serving the community, which are being destroyed, and therefore this community is emaciated for some time while they rebuild, because they don't have all of the access to things that they had. But these are also like Target's fine. These corporations, the corporations are fine. And these are also corporations that came into these communities and drove out small businesses and were working on emaciating the community themselves in a very different way. I'm a socialist, if you couldn't tell. I don't know. I just, when you break that social contract and you don't hear those outcries of these people in need, like, what do you expect? Eventually there is going to be an uprising. And when you tell people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, which I find it hilarious that people still use that phrase literally, because that phrase is was created like at the reason that phrase was created is because it's physically impossible to do. It's making fun of it.
Yeah, I like to say no bootstrap.
You can't pull yourself up by your how? And that's the reason that phrase was created. But anyway, when you have these communities and you don't listen to the needs that they have, and then there's this opportunity and everything, of course you're going to grab a little something that you need for your family. Of course you are. Mm-hmm. Because you've never had the opportunity, and you don't know when you're going to have the opportunity again to have a 32-inch television. You know, there's mm-hmm. A rug for your home. Mm-hmm. It's I don't know. And then there were people that I had to end friendships with, because I don't mind people disagreeing with the looting, but what I had an issue with were the people who would outcry about the looting. I had a friend who went on social media and said, if you agree with the looting that's going on right now, then you can unfriend me right now. And I said, deuces. And I wasn't for the looting, but that was the only comment he had. He had no other comment on everything that was going on, except for don't loot.
So, my wife doesn't get on social media very much, but around that time she was getting on social media, and anybody in her friends list that like she knew from high school or something like that was posting, complaining about rioting and looting, she would go back to see if they posted anything about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, etc. And if they didn't, then they got the axe. Because I can understand people having different viewpoints about things that are in one way or another hurting the community, but
absolutely.
I can't understand prioritizing property over human life. I don't get it. I know some people whose businesses were damaged, not necessarily in Minneapolis. I think I know some in Minneapolis, but definitely in other cities where there've been riots and looting and things of that nature. And I mean, I feel bad for them, especially if they haven't been able to reopen their business. But I feel a lot worse for people who have been victims of the police and heck, I feel worse for the protesters that were shot with rubber bullets and tear gas and everything like that than I do for somebody whose windows got broken. It's and especially because and some people have disagreed with me based on what they've seen, but in most of the examples that I've seen, the people that have been coming in and doing damage have not been the people that have been there to protest. You've had protests that have been peaceful, and then you've had people that have come in specifically to cause ruckus. And I think a lot of them we determined were white supremacists and right-wing agitators that were there specifically to try to turn peaceful protests into. I think we talked about that the first time you were on the show, Jazmin, didn't we?
Yeah. Not all of them. Not all of them. Some people were just people in the neighborhood who, no, you know, but some of them were people around. But yes, there were quite a few people who had flown in. But I don't want it to seem like that was all of them, because that wasn't the case, and I do want to be fair.
Sure.
There and accurate.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I've heard about people being flown in, but I've definitely heard about, like, I mean, so here in Madison, you know, we have any number of loosely organized groups of people that go out to protest anytime there's injustice. And then you get any sort of large number of what usually ends up being rowdy, white, high school and college age kids from the suburbs and the outlying farm communities that come in when they hear there's a chance to break windows and you know, and I mean,
and not all of them were kids who felt like there was a chance to break windows. Like, there were kids like that. There were also rowdy white kids who wanted to feel like they were a part of the movement, but didn't actually care. If that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And I don't think I've heard anybody articulate that before. So thank you for that.
And those were the guys who were out there, you know, protesting with us, but then also who would throw the bottle at the police, which would incite the gas and rubber bullets and such, which would upset us, because it's like, we're going to get shot when you are being violent and we're just trying to protest and be heard. Like, who are you? Is this your neighborhood? What are you trying to do?
I didn't see that, Sarah, so I don't know what you're talking about, but I kind of get the gist of it based on your comment. We have a guess as far as, wait, nope, that's the wrong comment. We have a guess as far as whatever Michael's plant-based, I don't think, it doesn't look like a smoothie, Chris. I think you're going to be way off on that guess. But, so.
Oh, Michael's making me jealous over here because I am starving waiting for 9 o'clock here.
It's rigatoni with asparagus, arugula, and what now? Mushrooms. No plant-based, just plants.
I can't. You know, I've been trying to like arugula for years. I've been trying so hard, but it is just bitter and weird and spicy in a way that I don't like.
It's peppery. I mean, just, you know, just full disclosure, Jazmin, I don't get to decide what we eat in this house. My wife put her foot down and said, we're going vegetarian/vegan. So if she decides to serve me a plate of asparagus, then that's what I'm having for dinner.
Well, asparagus is delightful. Just make sure you take your iron.
Oh, you said you don't like arugula.
I don't like arugula.
Well, same difference. If I had an arugula salad in front of me, I'd no.
Yeah, it's been
it's
been a reoccurring theme the past few weeks on the show. We've been discussing Michael's plant-based delicacies. I still
is that, you know, it's still processed food, Dan. So I don't want you to get the wrong idea. And I'm really sort of leaning more towards increasing my vegetable intake rather than looking for all these sort of miracle, you know, equivalent
substitute meat substitutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Copper Cow. They're an upscale Impossible Burger restaurant nearby, but I didn't care for it. Like, something happened.
I love them. But just make sure you're taking iron supplements then if you're eating vegan, because we're
not there yet. If we get there, we'll buck up. We're still started. There's still bread and pasta and many things that.
If you're just coming in, this is what our content is now. Take your iron.
It was completely irrelevant to anything.
No, that started with me and me being hungry and watching you eat.
I'm sorry. I'll stop right now.
No,
go ahead, Michael. So that's why it's been a discussion on the show, is because when Michael has switched to plant-based, he, it takes more sustenance to get through the 2 hours when you're eating plants.
Well, in general, if nobody likes it when I'm hangry in this house, so I don't even have to say. She kind of knows when the time is, and here, eat.
Hurry up before you get cranky.
Later on, huh?
So, thank you, Miss Kim.
Oh, well, she went back upstairs. I'll let her know you thanked her.
I have a habit, and I've actually been not doing it lately, which has been a lot better for my mental health, but like I'm not going to be able to stay away for too long because I can't help it. I'm a glutton for punishment, but I like to virtually punch Nazis. And by that, I mean get in arguments with people on Facebook. And one thing I'd like to note is that I tend to hear the same like reductive shit that comes up.
Such as?
Let's see. What are some of the things that come up? If you don't like it, move. Is what, or if they don't like it, they should move, is something that I've heard a lot of times. Like middle class white people just assume all Black people have the money to just up and move if they don't like something. Like that. Black people traditionally generally buy a home, keep that home, and then pass it down through generations. That's not always the case, but generally that is more the case in Black communities. We don't buy starter homes, buy homes that are legacy homes, and not necessarily always great homes, but it doesn't have to be great to be a legacy. So we're not, it's not so easy to just up and move if you don't like it.
Well, not only that, I mean, what is that? I mean, this whole idea that if you don't like the country the way it is, I
was talking about just like a neighborhood.
Oh, so it's the same theme, huh? I've not seen it so much for neighborhoods. Definitely, I've seen no end of if you don't like America, then move, to anybody who has anything critical to say. But I've never really seen that when it comes to neighborhoods. Although I was gonna say I've been spending a little bit more time on Nextdoor recently. Are you on Nextdoor? Are you familiar with it at all? It's a social media.
I absolutely am, and that's where that's a lot of where I've been getting into trouble. Okay, there are a lot of anti-maskers on Nextdoor.
Yeah,
Nextdoor makes me want to move.
Yeah. So, Michael, if you're not familiar, Nextdoor, or for anybody that's not familiar, it's a social media site where you're only linked up with people in your neighborhood. And it shows what street you live on, but not your actual house number. So the idea is that you can connect with your neighbors online. And it's great. Like, I have tons of bubble wrap that I need to give, that I want to give away rather than throw away. And so I'll say, hey, do any of my neighbors need bubble wrap? And then people that are actually in my neighborhood will come and, yes. But as Todd pointed out, it is also where all of the Karens and complainers hang out. And I have gotten into with so many people on there that have, the whole thing with masks. Like, I saw, I'm sorry.
I'm not shopping at Walmart anymore because they're making you wear masks to go in there. They've lost my business.
The one
shit like that.
The one that I've gotten that's been the most. I was trying to think of a way to break this down into a smaller soundbite. Is so one person will post, I saw somebody at the grocery store without wearing a mask, like trying to out them. And then all the anti-maskers will come in the comments and it just turns into like, And I'm not necessarily with the person that's trying to do the snitching. Like, I don't feel like that's necessarily smart either, even though I wish everybody would wear a mask in a public place. But like, it just turns into a shit show almost immediately. Yeah, so what you're saying is there's people on there that are basically saying move to a different neighborhood. They're not even saying leave the city. They're just saying, well, if you don't like this neighborhood, then move.
Well, there was a specific thing. It came up on Nextdoor. Someone had posted or maybe it wasn't on Nextdoor. I don't remember. But somebody had posted an article or a link to a video of black men protesting in a residential neighborhood, but he was yelling. He was yelling loudly, and she was essentially saying that your senator supports this guy. You need to vote him out. Blah blah blah. This and that, and everyone was like, oh, he's so violent, da 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 da, this and that. And I was like, okay, so when black people are loud, you think it's violent? Like, that's what you consider violent, is when black people are loud?
You already know the answer to that.
Because I'm very violent then. Violent. I'm violent right now.
Oh, this is loud? You loud and violent?
And there were other people who had said just some other things about, oh, well, he's, being forceful, and he's in their faces and this and that and shouldn't be there. And they're like, well, I was like, well, that's because these people are supporting certain policies that are extremely racist, and he is protesting peacefully, loudly, forcefully, but peacefully. And it may make you uncomfortable, but that's kind of the point of a protest.
Exactly.
Kind of the fucking point.
That's what it's to disrupt. It's to interrupt the pattern.
So one of the things I was thinking about today, and it didn't end up happening, but so I told you guys about the shooting that was a few miles from here, and that allegedly it was not a police-involved shooting because he shot himself. Because you know how people will run from the police and then run back to the police and shoot themselves.
Well,
so
every day. Yeah. I did that last week.
I know that about you, Jazmin. But so there have been several protests recently, as there should have been, and they've usually been shutting down major intersections. Some with like police escorts, and some just spontaneous protests that have happened. And they protested on the main thoroughfare in this nearby little suburb, as well as on the main highway. And it's a long story, but I had to run to the post office twice today, and part of that probably has to do with with how our current administration is destroying the post office and therefore causing problems for what should be basic mail. Anyhow, long story short, I had to go to the post office twice today, and I was thinking that in coming back from the post office, because I had to go to like the main post office, not just like a little close neighborhood one. I'm like, I wonder if they protest and they shut down the main highway today, I might not make it back in time for the show. Now, I would hate to not make it in time for the show, but that would be like, that's kind of the point of a protest. And I would have something to talk about when I finally did get here, that would be like, it's supposed to inconvenience people. It's supposed to make you notice. Mm-hmm. And I was already just kind of anticipating that, like, if that did happen, I'd be like, hey, well, here's something we can talk about, when I finally show up, is why I was delayed. And that's just, Roy Wood Jr. Did a good comedy bit about that too, about how the first time there was a protest. Do you guys know the bit I'm talking about?
Yeah, and then he goes to the museum.
I don't know if I know the one you're talking about. The one I'm talking about is that the first person who was late to work because of one of these protests got fired for it because nobody believed him. You know, oh, there was Negroes on the highway, you know, and it was a whole, but yeah, it's supposed to be, you know, if I think when we talk about peaceful protests, generally speaking, people think that peaceful means I don't have to hear about it.
That's right. And a couple of things have been running through my mind while you guys are talking. Point number one, we used to be property. So I always think about that when you're destroying property. You killing black people in the middle of the street with people with their cameras on watching. I mean, what was it? Was it you, Dan, that said, yeah, no life. To conflate the value of someone's life with the value of someone's property is crazy to begin with. Is that essentially what you said?
Yes.
Okay. I got you. The other thing I wanted to say is that here's the new one I like, since we're talking about talking points of white people who don't think they're racist. Here's the one I like. I just posted this one. I have friends who are black, but I don't support Black Lives Matter.
Oh, yeah. I
have friends who are white, but I don't support the KKK. Like, well, wait a minute. So, who is this who's comparing or conflating the Black Lives Matter with the Klan?
Didn't the Trump administration try to get Black Lives Matter designated a hate group? Am I making that up, or did that actually happen? I know there was talk about it.
I'm pretty sure they tried.
And
it's a terrorist organization. Blah blah blah. I heard something like that.
It's crazy to me that people hear Black Lives Matter and think that means that someone else's life has to matter less. You know,
But can I just interrupt and say that's how a lot of white people think?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also because every pro-white group in America has been anti-black.
I mean,
it's rational to imagine that that's what they think it means coming from us, but it don't.
Well, because the whole concept of whiteness was created to oppress.
Yeah, that's exactly.
If I hear one more goddamn person tell me that Black Lives Matter is a terrible organization because it's a Marxist organization. If I hear Marxist organization one more time, here's my thing. Regardless, I don't even care whether it is or isn't. I want those people to explain to me what Marxism is, because I've had those conversations. None of those people know what Marxism is. They do not know what Marxism is. It is not an ideology. It's a theory. It is a theory that capitalism won't work and eventually it will fall. It is a theory. I had somebody tell me that was on that same conversation, actually, the one that I was talking about on Facebook with the video. I never got into that. That's another one of the things that I heard was the whole Marxism thing. I was like, do you understand what Marxism is? Because you're just spouting propaganda. You know nothing about it, and you're just spouting propaganda. So you've clearly been indoctrinated. And she's like, oh, I know what it is. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, and what she explains to me or attempts to explain to me, she says Marxism is an ideology created by Stalin. This is what she says. Like, do you not know who Marx is? Do you not know why it's called Marxism?
Clearly not.
It was created by Karl Marx, and it's a theory, not an ideology.
Oh, boy.
Well, I mean, the thing that bugs me more than anything is people try to equate Black Lives Matter with the people that founded it as though it's some sort of like religion or you know, or political party.
Yeah.
And because the other thing I always hear is, well, I can't support Black Lives Matter because they support LGBTQ rights. And let's never mind for a second that everybody should be supporting LGBTQ rights. Let's just throw that out the window for the time being. Yeah. Like my response to that is always, so what you're telling me is that Black LGBTQ lives shouldn't matter. And that usually shuts them up.
Well. Yeah. I mean, you can see it on my or on the actually page, my picture has changed since you grabbed it, but on the picture that you grabbed,
yeah, Todd Phipps, you're right about that.
But I had Black Trans Lives Matter right up there, which is something that really needs to be spotted out there, and it's the only, it's the difference. Like, people get upset because they want to say all lives matter, and that's obvious. Like, you know, the issue is that there are people who believe that Black lives don't matter, which is why we put that on a spotlight. Yeah. There are people who there are transgender people who are killed every day as well, which is why we're putting that in the spotlight. Yeah.
Do you have those? Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
That's willful ignorance, Jazmin. That's, you know, that's a flimsy argument. It's not even really an argument at all. It's only a deflection. People have always been threatened by Black people doing anything in this country other than playing sports for their entertainment or picking cotton.
Where are my reparations at, by the way? I'm just saying, because white slave owners got reparations.
I thought you were German.
I'm just saying, white slave owners got reparations for their loss of property.
Yeah, I learned about that recently within the last couple of years. I did not.
Oh, really? Yeah.
They got
for anyone who didn't know that, white slave owners, they got reparations because they were losing property.
They lost property. Us.
Right. I was going to say, in case anybody's not making the connection as to what that property was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you'll get no argument from me there, Jazmin.
Well, I know Mike.
Where you at with it?
I know Michael wanted to try to end on time. Jazmin, is there anything else you wanted to make sure that we covered?
I don't, my Venmo's Jazmin E. Koenig. If anyone wants to send me reparations. No, I'm just playing. Donate to a cause. Please do. No, I don't have anything, I think, specifically that I have left.
You were about to say something, Michael, and I cut you off.
Well, what's coming up for you? Do you have anything in the works? Anything we can help you promote?
Vote. I will be out at the polls. I am a head election judge. I am going out and I am risking my life in a pandemic to make sure that people can vote. Make sure, get your mail-in ballots in if you're in Minnesota or one of the states where you can mail in your votes. But if you can't do that, please go in and vote, or a lot of places you can hand your ballots in to City Hall the day before. Just look into what you can do to vote. Honestly, I have the way that I'm going to vote. I don't care how you vote. I do, but just vote. Like, have a voice. Otherwise, if you don't do it, don't bitch. If you don't vote, don't bitch. And make sure you vote in 2 years at the midterm elections. That shit is more important than the president.
Jesse's asking, what is an election judge?
An election judge are the poll workers. They're the people who work at your local polling station to work. So we count the ballots, we run the polling station. And so I am going to be a head election judge. So I'll be heading a polling station wherever they station me.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
I'm sorry, man. I need to address Chris Lundholm because he's our brother. We haven't met him, but we love him already.
We do.
He's asking about how come Black trans lives. Yes, okay. And Jazmin, please. I mean, I got my own expression about it, but I'd rather you lead on this.
Yeah. Okay, he says the Black Trans Lives Matter thing is a double-edged sword. They are not under that banner. Are they not under that banner enough? Oh, okay. So the reason, I mean, I'm not gonna get mad at anyone for saying Black Lives Matter and not saying Black Trans Lives Matter. It's not like if you were to come out and say all lives matter or blue lives matter, which, by the way, there's no such thing as a blue life. No one's born blue.
What about the girl from
there are just white lives in
the
blue
Marvel
uniforms,
movie.
Dan.
Gamora. What about Gamora from Avengers?
Gamora is a fictional character. Her life does not matter.
He's trying to be cute. What about Avatar?
I'm mad you said she doesn't matter, but okay. Go ahead.
You know what? No, if they want to make me wait over 10 years for the second movie, they don't matter either. Anyway, so the reason why it's so important is because just like we are trying to outline Black lives because they are disproportionately murdered and killed, trans lives even more so.
Absolutely.
More than any other part of the LGBTQ community, more than any other minorities, trans lives are at risk and in danger all the time. So we do want to highlight that trans people go missing. They are murdered. I highly recommend, please, if you are watching this, there is a documentary on Netflix called, oh, please, Lord, give me the name.
Everybody call out to Jesus on this show.
Hold on.
Disclosure?
Yes, there's a documentary on Netflix called Disclosure. Excuse me and my ADHD here. And it really will answer that question for you. We are taught by movies and media specifically that there is something to disclose when there's not. Trans people don't have anything to disclose. And because media portrays it in a way where when you find out that someone is trans, it's always portrayed as if people were tricked and they're finding out that they were tricked. And there's generally vomiting. People feel that is the case in real life. Also, on television, trans women are often played by cis men or men who are assigned male at birth. So we get this idea that like a trans woman is actually a man in women's clothing, or that a trans man is actually a woman in men's clothing, when that's not the case. But these are the ideas that are ingrained into our heads by the media and the way that trans people are portrayed. And this causes a very dangerous society for trans people. Please watch Disclosure. It will answer this question much better than I can, but it is really important that we highlight that. that we highlight Black trans lives or trans Black lives because they are even more disproportionately affected.
I was looking. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
I'm sorry, man. I was just gonna say, and I hate to put my own people on Front Street all the time, but I also think that it's possible it could be motivated somewhat by the fact that there's still a lot of homophobia in the Black community. Like there's still judgment.
There's a lot of transphobia in the gay community.
And racism.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of baggage and there's a lot of reasons to be specific. There's a lot of reasons for specificity.
So they need all the support that they can get, which is why we're trying to highlight Black trans lives. You'll hear me say Black Lives Matter, but you'll hear me say Black trans lives matter as well and highlight that many times because it's necessary.
Yeah, let me touch on something. I'm sorry, Dan. I don't keep the mean cutting you off.
That's okay.
Somebody, Brandy asked, like, well, why she has something to the effect of, why get something that tastes like meat if you're trying to stop eating meat, or if you don't want it? It's not that I want to stop eating meat, but there's not enough inspectors, at enough of the plants where meat is processed to know what you're getting anymore. I haven't lost the taste for meat. I just, and I don't have anything. It's not even really about, I'm not a particular advocate for leave the animals alone and don't, like, that ain't really me even there. The reason I'm doing what I'm doing, literally.
I love that this is how we're ending the segment.
Well, I just got to address this because that just struck me as being an odd question anyway. Like,
Found it.
Yes. What if you don't want to eat? I want to eat meat. That's my point. I'm just not doing it.
I love Beyond Burgers. They're delicious.
Huh?
I love Beyond Burgers. I have one. It's literally what I'm about to eat after I get done.
Okay.
Here.
That's all well and good. I'm just saying, I had a particular experience with a particular sandwich, and I heard a voice in my head saying, how can you expect to live if you're eating dead things? So my consciousness got raised in a single episode, and I tried to ignore it, but I could not.
Oh no, I was talking about the Beyond Burgers, the fake burgers.
Oh, who are you? Are you addressing me or Todd?
You, anyone? The Void. No one's listening anyway.
That's all right. You know what? I was like, what a weird question. I love meat. That ain't the reason I'm stopping. I haven't lost the taste. I'm just finding the meat experience.
And what were you gonna say?
Me?
Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to say something real quick to you. Last time we were on here, you said something. There was something that you said, and I have used that soundbite over and over and over and over again since then. So I want to thank you for it. You said racism. Shut up, Michael. This ain't about you right now. I'm just playing.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
You talking to me? Oh,
You said racism does not require intent.
Yeah.
And I have used that over and over and over again since then.
Are you sure he said that? Because that sounds like my line.
Give it to Michael.
He might have you know what? He might have been recycling your line.
I'm sure
and I just heard it out of his mouth.
I'm sure I was appropriating Black culture.
But
I'm sure that this is something, because this is a point I've mulled over quite a bit. And he's looking over there like Cindy Brady.
But
like, when did I say that? So
I mean, it sounds like something I would say, but I don't want to take the credit.
Here's the thing. I doubt either of you originated the thought.
No, but it's not a reasonable solution to come to for people who apparently, don't think that even racism is even real. But the fact that they think it's some sort of like every racist has got like a Snidely Whiplash mustache. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna do evil. No, it's most people are racist in ways that they're not even conscious of. So
yeah, but it's really scary because we're living in a world right now where the mustaches are out. And
some, yes,
and
but
it's okay.
I guess, yes, I understand what you're saying. But yeah, what I'm saying is that it doesn't have to be a situation where somebody is setting out to do specific damage to you or to a people. They're just doing it. And a lot of time they're unaware of the damage that they do, I guess is all I was saying.
Thank you, Patty. Yes, the religion does have a lot to do with trans bias as well.
Sure.
And that's one of the things I was going to ask you. Do you have the statistic handy as far as the frequency with which trans women are murdered? I looked for it and couldn't find it quickly, but it's something like it's egregiously higher than the general population.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
no, but I'll see if I can find it quickly.
Okay. The other thing I was going to say in response to what Michael was talking about is it was crazy. We talk about how, people are quick to talk about how government doesn't really affect them, or, who we vote for doesn't really affect them, or, we're so different talking points like that. And we're so quick to say that. But when Trump deregulated the meat industry, I noticed a difference on my next trip to the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Like trying to find meat that it was quality and not spoiled and doesn't have all the gristle and extra stuff. Mm-hmm. Like my wife used to have me buy chicken thighs to make arroz con pollo, which I'm probably not saying right because I can't speak Spanish. And at some point she had me stop buying the chicken thighs because we couldn't find them in the quality enough that was good enough to make what she was making. Mm-hmm. And we had to find a different solution. And it's crazy to think that the difference was that stark. And by the way, which was done in the middle of a pandemic because they couldn't find enough employees that weren't sick to come in and process the meat. That's what prompted that, if anybody's forgotten.
Yeah.
And so that's just another example of how important it is. And the other question I wanted to ask Jazmin, while we're talking about the importance of voting, I know you talked about voting by mail. What are your feelings on voting by mail versus voting early? Because my wife and I pretty much made up our minds that rather than risking the post office, we were going to go in and vote early.
Yeah, that's up to you. I'm going to. It depends on the state that you're in, right? So I think, yeah, vote early if you can. You could do whichever you're comfortable with, right? I think vote early is great because you know that your vote's being counted. Voting by mail is more dangerous if you're gonna more dangerous as far as your vote not being counted, because I mean, Trump has outright said on national television, I am attempting to disrupt this election by disrupting the post office. He has outright said it.
It's crazy to me. I know we're circling back and we're over, but it's crazy to me that he can say stuff like that out of his mouth and people can still support him. I mean, he's outright said, I am trying to destroy XYZ. And people are like, yay, destroy the things, destroy America. People will put up with anything if it means supporting white supremacy.
Well,
ladies and gentlemen.
But I mean, if you're not comfortable voting in person, vote by mail. But yeah, vote early. I'm going to vote early because I don't know which polling station I'm going to be stationed at. During the primaries, I was stationed at my own polling station, so I just voted while I was there. But
I see.
Just as long as you vote and really utilize vote.org or some of my favorite YouTubers, Rhett and Link, have a website called votelikeabeast.org, which has some really great content on there where you can figure out, who falls most in line with your views.
Sure.
Shit. No, I lost myself. I need to eat something, I think, is where it comes from. Oh,
okay.
Let me quote this real quick from this article. So this isn't about deaths, but I think it will shine a light a little bit. So according to a 2015 U.S. transgender survey by activist group National Center for Transgender Equality, 38% of Black trans people surveyed reported living in poverty, compared to just 12% of the U.S. population and 29% of transgender people overall. The respondents also reported greater housing instability, with 51% of Black trans women reporting that they have experienced homelessness at some point in their life. 51% of Black trans women reporting that they've experienced homelessness at one point in their life. Black trans women were also disproportionately likely to report having participated in sex work. 42% of Black trans women said they had taken part in income-based sex work, compared to 12% of overall survey respondents. It's just,
yes,
it's a rough world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that to. I support. I support responsible, safe sex work and sex workers out there, but
I was going to say that's a whole nother discussion. That'd be a great discussion to have sometime.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We already know Jazmin will be back.
Yeah,
but
he's willing to come.
But these Black trans women who are involved in it's not safe sex work that they're generally involved in. It's on the streets, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, that's a sad note to end on, but
you're welcome.
Jazmin's hungry. Michael's hungry. Real quick, let's just talk about what we got coming up. First of all, for those who haven't seen, I'm wearing it, and I'm also showing you we have brand new Sarah art. That's quite possibly my favorite thing that she's drawn of either Michael or myself. So go to the merch store if you want your own Sarah art for Musipolitics. Next week, we have the first in our 3-part series of Black women politicians, Judge Dominic Collins from Dallas, Texas. So it's quite interesting timing that we have a judge as our guest while this SCOTUS debate is happening. So we'll probably get to talk to her a little bit about that. But I believe she's actually a criminal judge, so we can talk to her about the whole art case about defunding the police and Black Lives Matter and all of that from her perspective, being somebody who actually sits on the bench, being a Black woman that sits on the bench. And then after that will be Musipolitics Classic, and Michael has invited Chris to be one of our drop-in guests. You guys don't know Chris. He's been in the comments quite frequently. He's a great dude, great musician. What do we got coming up after that? October 13th is comedian Abby Crutchfield. And then we have the remaining 2 parts of our 3-part series for Black women politicians. And then it's election day. So, man, it's a lot going on. But please come back and hang out with us again next week. Michael or Jazmin, you guys got anything you want to say?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, may her memory be a blessing.
God is still in control.
And I say, may her memory be a blessing, not rest in peace because she was Jewish. Rest in peace is a very Christian thing to say.
I never really liked rest in peace, and I am Christian. It just seems...
There is no heaven in Judaism, so may her memory be a blessing is a more respectful thing to say because she was Jewish.
It just seems very macabre anyways, doesn't it? Rest in peace. I don't know why. I've never liked rest in peace. I've always tried to find something else to say.
That's great. I'm at 7% on my battery, so close it down, Jeff.
Okay, we will see you guys next week.
Go
Thanks for
watch
watching.
Disclosure.